What's good with the YouTube? You already know, Big Flocka with a convict's perspective, man. We're going to continue on this journey. We're going to talk about the origins and history of how the rider movement was created. As I got none other than badass Snoop on here, Maurice Vasquez. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing absolutely phenomenal, man. Thank you.
Man, you already know the routine, man. This is the platform for you to have to speak your truth. You're not censored. Nothing gets altered. Nothing gets edited. Have at it, bro.
Okay, I appreciate it, man. So, as I left off yesterday, I was indicating that, the short time that I was on the yard, I actually was really excited about, what I was learning. At this time, I had been in Norteño since I was 14 years old. And so this was around February of 1999. So, I've been in Norteño for 9 years.
This call is being recorded.
So, I'm having the privilege of being on the yard for the first time with, actual validated members of La Nostra Familia. So I'm asking a plethora of questions regarding the history and the origins and, just getting, the inaccuracies corrected regarding, stories that I've heard over the years, the origins of how, the Nostra Familia was founded and, the dates of when La Nostra Raza was founded. And, I was very, very intrigued by the stories that I was hearing. And what I had gathered basically was that, the Nostra Raza is abolished. And what was being emphasized by the Canales was that they didn't even want to hear anybody referring to themselves as bro anymore. They wanted the term bro or, hermano to be kind of obliterated out of the vocabulary of the Norteños that were on that yard. And of course, I do know that not everybody felt, great about that. There were gentlemen that were at one time, referred to as hermanos. You had guys on the yard that had, Nostra Raza tattooed on them. You had gentlemen that had, NR, on their back arms and NR on their forearms. And, so of course, they were,
I got NR tattooed on my chest. You know how many times I got jammed up if I was a writer?
We're going to get to that later on. That's part of the reason why. We're going to get to that, but that's interesting you say that, man.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You had a lot of proud, I guess you could call them ex-hermanos, but what I had conveyed to Spider and Pumps and some of the canales on that yard, what I had, was addressing was that there was a misinterpretation, kind of a misconception, if you will, that was being promoted out there on the yard. And like I said, this new agenda, this significant changes that had transpired, they were new to me. I had barely been abreast of these changes while I was on the reception. And, I arrived to the reception towards the end of 98. I believe December of 98, November of 98. And so I'm letting them know that the way that it's being presented is that those who were at once affiliated as associates or members of La Nostra Raza were now to be called Norteños. And that those of us who were regarded as Norteños for all these years were to be regarded as Northerners.
Yeah.
And that's something that I was not okay with. Like I previously indicated, I even had some homeboys that I've known for quite some time that were good, solid Norteños that were now regarding themselves as Northerners. And that just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
So what I was being told was that wasn't the case. That the Nuestra Raza has been abolished. So there is no more such thing as La Nuestra Raza. And so that now everybody's Norteños. And so, hearing that, especially, hearing that from educated Anales who were instrumental in the development of these decisions, that was very exciting for me.
Yeah.
Because the way that I'm looking at things is that, I had the right incentive, because as I previously, shared, I've had issues on every yard that I've been on with the La Nuestra Raza. There's always been incidents that have eventually ensued as a part of the way that they ran the program, the dictatorship, if you will. So, I was excited. And of course,
This call is being recorded.
that there were certain inconsistencies that I didn't like, that I didn't understand, that I inquired about. And one of the things in particular was the fact that there was a gentleman that's been out there in Sacramento by the name of Abe Hernandez. And for many years, I always thought that Abe Hernandez was, he's an OG. So I figured that he was a carnal. I believe that he was a member of the NF. I know that he's been living out there in Broderick, for many years. I met him in 1995, and he was the uncle of a hoe that I know that used to work at one of the clubs out in Sacramento. And so, I always assumed that he was a member of the Nostra Familia. But this is some guy that, he's in the mix, he's in the lifestyle, and he networks. I know that he makes money. So it gets brought to my attention that I was inaccurate in my assumption. This guy actually isn't a member of NF. He's actually a member of the Mexican Mafia. So I was dumbfounded when I got this information, because what I couldn't figure out, and of course I did ask this too, if this guy is a member, and this isn't just a regular member neither, this guy is actually a high-ranking member of the Mexican Mafia. This is something that's known. He's actually a validated member of the Mexican Mafia. And, he's been a member for, 30-plus years at this time. So one of the things that I inquired is, okay, why are you guys allowing this guy to just run around Sacramento? And I didn't get a really.
This call is being recorded.
I didn't get an answer that I was satisfied with, if you will. And another thing that I had learned was that one of the carnales out there named Sniper Flores, I had met him in Solano when I was in the administrative segregation there. And so we knew each other, but he was on walk alone. And so I found out, that he's doing time for petty theft with a briar. And come to find out, this guy, he's been a member of the Nostra Familia for many years, but he's locked up because he got busted for walking out of Safeway with some meat.
Oh, wow.
I mean, literally. He's literally, I don't know if you want to call him a high-ranking, but I know he's been a carnal for many years. But this guy literally walked out of Safeway with several packages of steak. And so, that was pretty interesting. It was pretty troubling. And then another carnal by the name of Turtle Gomez, he's locked up for some miscellaneous shenanigans, because he's walking around Sacramento with were burglar tools, and they said that he was breaking into cars. And so when the cops, arrested him, he had, some broken cell phones and, change and just some miscellaneous items that he had apparently, stolen out of these parked cars in the neighborhood that he was transient in. And, so, of course, people say, who am I to judge? And of course, we often hear that cliche that, we're not supposed to judge, but, I'm a firm believer that as a man, that you have every right in the world to judge. You have the right to judge, especially those who are supposed to be looked at as authority figures in a sense.
Yes.
So, of course, I thought this was funny. It was mind-boggling. But the guy Spider, who I was establishing a pretty good rapport with, pretty good relationship with, by this time I had been there for about a month, and he was getting visits every weekend. So, sometimes my wife and his wife would be out there in the visiting room together, and of course our visits are.
This call is being recorded.
Each of us, when we go into the visiting room, we're separated by a partition, but we can hear each other. So, we introduced our wives to each other, and I see that he gets a visit every weekend and whatnot. So, we're familiarizing ourselves with each other. And I'm really digging this dude. We talk the same language, if you will. And so, back then, you could only spend $35 a month in AdSec.
Mm-hmm.
But the price of things were pretty cheap. You could buy a big bag of chips at that time for $1, and a bag of Maxwell House was like $1.80, and the jar of coffee was only like $4.50 at that time. So, $35 was able to get you, pretty much what you needed, and then some. But, of course, it's not enough for me to eat every day. I am sharing and stuff, So what I did was a few of the homeboys that weren't going to the store, I had my wife put money on their books, and it's only $50. Whenever you get money put on your books now, they automatically take 55% for restitution. So nowadays, if you put $100, you only are able to go to the store for $45. But back then, they were only taking 22%. So, me putting, $50 on the guy's books, that's nothing. He's going to be able to spend, $30-something when he goes to the store. And so, I put money on like 3 guys' books, and so they were able to go to the store, and, we were able to stack up on cosmetics for the new arrivals, and, it was cool, man. Everybody was able to eat and, make some burritos and, enjoy some spreads and whatnot. I was able to stack up on my coffee because, of course, I had them purchase me items as well,
Yeah.
Basically, I told them, look, give me $15 worth of stuff and, keep the rest for yourself, so they were able to spend $20, buy cosmetics and whatnot that we actually needed on the second tier. But the reason why I mention this is because I hear this gentleman by the name of Turtle that I just mentioned, he's inquiring with Little Man, hey, put money on your books. He's like, hey, Snoop did. He's like, well, how many hoes went to the store down there? He's like, man, a bunch of us. And he was like, well, and so, mind you, I'm in the back row. I believe it was
Yard side or
cell 20.
was it yard side?
Come again?
Was it yard side?
While over there, it's different. I'm in, it's not San Quentin.
No, I forgot. I was there in Tracy. I'm trying to figure out what side. I know there's one where you're facing towards the yards.
Yeah. Over there, it's ran by east side, west side.
Okay.
So
East-
so it's east side, west side.
East side faces the yard, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But basically, east side faces
L-wing. L-wing. Yeah.
L-wing.
Yeah.
And west side faces J-wing.
Yeah. I didn't even know there was a whole first tier that was all by itself. That tripped me out.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely. Yeah, there's the second and third tier
Are together.
Are share each other, so we're able to fish with each other and whatnot. And then there's the floor, and then the first tier is separate, but they do go to yard with us.
Yep.
So we do have homeboys on the first tier that go to yard with us. And the homeboys that were on the first tier was Pups from Redwood City, and Bad Boy from San Jose. That was Terry Peasant. So anyways, I hear the turtle loud and clear because he's on the third tier, but he's only he's like maybe 3 cells to my right, so we can hear each other, loud and clear. So he's over here asking a little man from Roseville, hey, you went to the store. He's like, well, hey, I need some coffee up here, man. Can you send me some coffee? And he's like, yeah. They send me some soups too, So what they do, they break up the soups and then they put it in tubes and whatnot. And they're able to fish it up there. And so, I don't pay no attention to that. So on our next yard, the position of tier security was the gentleman that I told you was next door to the shower. His name was Weddle from Hayward.
Okay, yeah.
And we go out to the yard, last name Gutierrez. So we're out in the yard, and he approaches me, and he says, hey, Turtle said to put $50 on his books for next month, so he's able to go to the store.
This call is being recorded.
Okay, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, he said he's going to be able to go to the store, next week or in 2 weeks. So can you put $50 on his books? That way they were able to buy some coffee up there. And so I was aware that Spider, who was actually next door neighbors or a cell over, had put money on a couple homeboys' books upstairs as well. So, I'm like, well, shit, how come Turtle doesn't come ask me? He goes, well, don't tell me to come tell you. I says, well, you tell Turtle that. I said, absolutely not. He's not telling me a damn thing, And so Weddle shrugs his shoulders and walks away. I see him go over there and he's talking to Turtle, and I was agitated. I was agitated by it, and I didn't feel offended, enough to go confront him about this, but I was agitated by it, But anyways, I got back to what I was doing, By this time, I was telling you that I became really cool with some homeboys around the yard. There was a kid by the name of Chino, who had came from YA, and he was pretty decent little dude, man.
From San Jose?
His name was Chino. They call him Siete now. He's actually a compadre in my movement now.
Was he from San Jose?
He's a very devout compa. They call him Siete from Doctorville. You ever heard of him?
No.
There's a video of him. I guess they were trying to smut up that dude Turtle for hanging out with compas. And on one of those platforms, they have a video of him playing pool with that dude Little Toro.
Okay.
Yeah, because I guess at the time Little Toro was an active norteño, so they were trying to smut up a little compa, Siete, who's he's a devout practitioner of my movement, but they were showing that he had a Playboy bunny on his chest and whatnot.
Yeah.
But anyways, so at the time, he was just an 18-year-old homeboy. When I say just, I don't mean that to take away from who he was, but I'm not saying that he was 18 years old, At this time, I'm like maybe 23 years old, but he was a decent dude, man. So every yard after we're done with our machine and whatnot, we're usually cutting it up or playing handball or basketball or whatnot. But he was part of my little circle that I hung around with, which consisted of RB, Richard Savala from Stockton. He was previously a hermano.
Mm-hmm.
So he expressed his opinions and his insights into a lot of these changes that had taken place. And Pump Scoria, he was somebody that I was real cool with. Like I said, also. I got to know Fidel Fabella, running this yard, he had the most influence as far as the carnals were concerned. Another guy who had showed up was another carnal that I've known for many years. His name is Smokey Padilla from Robert Smokey Padilla from North Highlands. And it's a trip because I never even knew that he was a member of the Nuestra Familia. So I was pretty surprised by this. But I knew him. We ventured on a couple of business endeavors, if you will. He's out there and he does pretty well for himself, but he kicks it with a different crowd than I do. He hangs out with mechanics and bikers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't run around with bikers. I know that everybody wants to be a biker now that Sons of Anarchy and the Mayans that have popularized themselves in mainstream. But it's never been my crowd.
Yeah.
Not that I'm taking anything from the bikers out there. Shouts out to the bikers. I know a bunch of bikers that are pretty decent dudes, but that's just not my crowd. But I was surprised, man, that to learn that Smokey was an actual carnal of the Nuestra Familia and had been so for quite some time. So him and I get along pretty good, so we're always cutting it up and whatnot. But so fast forward, I get a visit that week, and commissaries normally pass out on Wednesdays there. And so that Wednesday, commissaries being passed out, and this is, I believe, like first drawer going this week in particular. So they're dropping bags off and they're bringing things down, and at that time what they would do is, you had a couple of staff that come through with the bag, and they'll park in front of your cell, and and I'd say during this time, all of our items are taken out of the wrappers. The only things that we're able to have in our cell were soups. We can have our soups in our cell, but even the soup packets are broke down and they're put in a white cup.
Yeah.
With the lid on it.
This call is being recorded.
Our cosmetics, our shampoo, our toothpaste, everything is squeezed out. But of course, we put those in jelly wrappers and empty peanut butter packs and whatnot. So nothing goes stale. We're able to wrap this up and whatnot. Plus we save our paper bags, so we stack and put our chips in and cookies. And one of the things I used to do was save all my milk cartons. Milk cartons are able to vacuum seal if you put them on top of each other and whatnot. But anyway, I say that to say this. Suddenly I hear Turtle yell down to Little Man. He seems pretty agitated. He said, Little Man. He's like, yeah. He was doing me a favor and call down to Weddle and tell him I'm calling him. I'm trying to get a hold of him. And so Weddle, mind you, there's 25 cells per tier.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're on the back bar. I'm like in cell 27, I believe. So I'm like literally one of the last three cells. And so, he's trying to call up to the front bar, which I believe is like, cell 35 or 40 or whatever it was, And so he's calling, hey. And so, excuse me, up the tier, they call the Weddle. Hey, Turtle's calling you. And I hear him say, hey, Weddle, hey, did you tell him that? And I automatically know. It's not too hard to figure out that he's talking about me. And so Weddle's like, what? Did you tell him that? And I immediately become agitated because, mind you, I'm literally down the stairs, but I'm 2 cells over. You can literally ask me. I know he's asking, So he's like, yeah, I told him, they're yelling across, So, okay. So he calls down to Weddle and says, hey, Weddle, ask Snoop if you ever put that on my books. They didn't give me nothing right now. They're saying that I don't have the money on my books. And so Little Man says, I said, yeah, I heard him. I said, tell him. I said, no, I didn't put that on his books. So he says, hey, Turtle, he says, he didn't put those on your books. He says, well, can you ask him why? And so finally I said, hey, look, hey, Turtle, why don't you ask me why? Because I'm talking to Little Man, that's why. I said, well, you can ask me why. He said, well, how come you didn't do that? I said, because I didn't feel like it. Didn't Weddle tell you to put the money on my books? I told him, look, check this out, Playboy. Why don't you have your bitch put money on your fucking books? And then by this time, the whole, both tiers are just quiet. Everybody's listening to this. He's like, well, what did you say? I said, but you heard exactly what I said. I said, man, have your bitch put money on your books, man. And so by this time, I'm enraged. My blood is, boiling by this time, man. And my heart.
This call is being recorded.
He says, hey, Spider, did you hear that? Did you hear that? He just called my hire a bitch. He's like, hey, man, come up there. He's like, hey, badass. I'm like, yeah. He's like, hey, man, calm that down, man. Calm that down. He's like, man, you're gonna let him do that? Spider, you're gonna let him do that? You gonna let him do that? And so I'm just biting my tongue, man. I don't want to wolf at him over the tier. And so Spider's, he calls down to me. He's like, hey, badass, hey, apologize to him, man. And I'm ignoring him, So they're calling me, hey, badass, they're calling me, and I finally, yeah, what's happening, man? He's like, hey, apologize to him. I told him, I'm not apologizing to him. Because I'm telling you to apologize to him. I told him, I'm not apologizing. I don't owe that man an apology. And so he's like, all right. So that was that. And so Turtle was like, man, you see? I told you. And so now, within about 30 minutes, I hear them fishing. And so, they tell RB, who's neighbors, to Little Man, they tell me, hey, we're coming down right now, get the line. So, they get the line, and of course, 2 cells down is one of my boys. His name's Gangster, me and him got to become pretty cool. So he shoots his line down. He's like, hey. So I see the line, I get it, and he sends me a kite. He says, hey, that they're going to remove you from the yard when we go. So I get back at him. I tell him, I don't give a fuck. He said, well, you know that Turtle's a clown. I told him, man, I don't care. So we're fishing back and forth, communicating with each other on paper. And so, he tells me, hey, look, if for some reason, they're fucking you up, I'm going to assist you. And I was very surprised by this, me and this guy had become pretty damn cool, man. Became pretty cool, so I appreciated that. I'm not one to put anybody in diabolical circumstances. So, yeah, if in fact, a battle did ensue, I can take care of myself, By this time, I've already seen about, 4 removals that have taken place, and I can honestly say, every removal that was done with 2 people. And, there was always a weapon involved, This isn't something that people don't already know. I'm not trying to provide any type of, information on anybody, but yeah, people know that, there's a removal, somebody's either getting sliced or stabbed, and you got somebody that's going to come bomb on them afterwards. Well,
this call is being recorded.
So the removals that I have seen so far, they've been pretty gruesome. Motherfuckers get fucked up. But by this time, I can take care of myself. I'm a practitioner of the arts, if you will. So I'm not sitting here insinuating that that I'm not afraid of what might be happening. More than likely it's going to happen, but I'm all for it. I feel like I'm in the right, and regardless of this guy, being a carnal. I mean, I have no respect for him, man. He's not somebody that I look at, with admiration. Um, so they're fishing and whatnot, and I send my line down to Little Man. I tell Little Man, hey, get that. And so Little Man, gets it, and Little Man's somebody that I was cool with. And I tell him, basically I'm asking, what do you think is going to transpire? And he said, well, to be honest with you, more than likely you're probably going to not be allowed to program anymore. He goes, so between you and I would advise that you don't come to yard Friday. So I read it, and of course he's asking for me to send that filter back. He wants to be able to flush it himself, So yeah, that's there's no way in the world that's not going to happen. I'm going to make my presence. So when I pull my line back, Chino is in between us. Chino's Little Man's neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the 18-year-old homeboy that I became pretty tight with during his time there. He ties a filter onto my line, so I pull it back, and he says, hey, I want you to know that if it goes down Friday, if you decide to come out, I got your back. And so, I appreciated that as well. And so, just so you know, this kid's 18 years old. I didn't know how much time he was doing, but I know that, he came from YA, and he did a stabbing in YA, so he's got a little bit of time on his hands. I don't want to get him sucked into my dilemma. This is a problem that I'm basically created for myself. So I get out of it. I tell him, as much as I appreciate it, I would advise you to stand down. Don't involve yourself. I can take care of myself, but thank you. And here's your kite back. Get rid of it. And so that was that. And so Friday comes, and I go out to the yard, and everything's everything. I'm a part of the formation, and by this time, Pups and I, Jesse Correa, me and him are really cool, man. Yeah, he's actually still a friend of mine. Somebody that I consider a friend of mine. But he's looking at me, and he's like nodding his head, and he's looking sad. So I can see that, okay, more than likely it's about to go down. And, so they open the yard up, and we end up doing our machine, which is our dealing exercise that we do every day. And so after the exercises are done, I see the inner circle are having a meeting. They commenced, and they're having their dialogue, their daily dialogue, if you will. And so I see that Turtle's livid, and he's telling the other guys what transpired, and Spire's just looking right there, and he looks at me, and he's nodding his head, and
This call is being recorded.
he's talking to Turtle, and he calls me over there. So I walk over there, and he tells me, hey, look, I'm not going to even discuss this any further, but I told you on the tier that you needed to apologize to him, man. So apologize. And I nodded my head, man. I'm not doing that. He says, look, Snoop, this is a carnal. This is my carnal. You need to apologize to him, man. You disrespected him over the tier. I said, he disrespected me too. He says, yeah, but you called his old lady out of her name. I says, well, look, man, I said bitch. I refer to a lot of women as bitches, He goes, yeah, but you don't have the right to do that. Apologize. This is your big homie. And I tell him straight up, that's not my big homie. And so everybody's looking at me, and I mean this, Anybody who's listening to this story, I encourage, leave some comments, man. Anybody that was on the yard at this time, Slowpoke from Sacramento, and, Weddle Gutierrez from Hayward, and, Pups Correa, and even Turtle, if you're listening to this, you know, I mean, put some comments in, you know. There's a plethora of people, you know, Chino from Manteca, Psycho, who's a carnal from Manteca, you know, Smokey Padilla, who I mentioned. You know, there's about 30 homeboys on this yard, so I welcome the comments. I welcome questions. Please do so. But to me, like I previously indicated, you know, I'm a self-sufficient person, man. I'm pretty successful within the threshold of the game. And when it comes to regarding somebody as my big homie, that's not something that I often do. I don't refer to just anybody as my big homie. Just because you're older than me, you're not my big homie.
Yeah.
You know, I have a big brother. You know, my big brother, who you know, we've been through a whole lot. You know, over the years. That's my big brother. But as far as a big homie, in order for you to be my big homie, you have to have taught me something, man. You have to have contributed to the growth and development of who I am, you know, as a man, or my success to some degree. You know, I had a successful business venture at this time. You know, I did pretty good for myself. You know, I did pretty good for myself. So I'm not referring to this guy as my big homie. And so they said, man, this is your big homie. You know, and I told him he's not my big homie, man. He didn't apologize to you, man. I said, he's gonna apologize to me? He says, if you apologize to him, he's gonna apologize to you. And so Turtle says, I'm not apologizing to you. And so now I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and reverse this. I'm gonna put him in the cross, because right now he just said he's not gonna apologize to me. And so Spider, you know, who's running the show on this yard, you know, and I do look.
This call is being recorded.
As an authority figure on this yard. I'm not going to sit here and deny that, you know, he's running the show here. And he is somebody that, you know, in the time that I've gotten to know him, I genuinely like this guy. You know, I genuinely like him, man. And there's aspects about his leadership that I admire. So I finally said, you know what, man? I apologize. I apologize. And so he tells Turtle, apologize. And Turtle immediately said, oh, I apologize too. He goes, you guys shake hands. And so we shake hands. And like I said previously, you know, I know that they're not doing this to bring my guards down. You know, I can say, you know, the 4 incidents that have transpired on the yard, you know, where removals did occur. You know, there actually wasn't like a removal every week in the time that I had been there thus far, you know. But every guy that was about to be removed knew he was going to be removed.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Into him. So I'm not saying this, you know, to say that these guys were, you know, trying to, you know, catch me off guard. So I knew that it was cool, man. You know, I knew that it was all right.